Hi, my name is Noel Davis with World Composting, and today we're going to take a look at our bin that has the pine shavings in it. So I have right down here below me the bin. It's been 20 days since our last update, so almost 3 weeks. A little longer than I wanted to go, but you know, it happens sometimes when you've got so many bins that are going. But we're going to definitely probably have to add some food. I'm guessing that they're probably out. We're definitely going to have to add some moisture as it's been pretty dry. You can tell by my hands are kind of cracking and bleeding a little bit because of how dry my house has been. So I've been trying to add more water to them, and I've got a lot of water sitting down here on the floor in my basement ready to go. I've got a bucket and I've got my sprayer, and also of course I have the BTI mix in there. I will say the fruit fly and fungus gnat issue seems to be gone in my basement. I do have my light sitting up over here, and I see very few bugs in it right now. So I have cleaned it out, you know, probably a couple weeks ago, and it's really not, it's not filling up in a week. So with that, I'm still going to add that BTI mix because it ensures that they don't come back, but hopefully eventually we'll be able to stop doing that. So with that, let's take a look at the system, let's see how it's doing, and see how the worms are, and see how this material is holding up. We're now well past the year at this point, and it looks like this material, these pine shavings, are still there. For somebody that's looking to raise worms, this might be a really good option for you, because it's something you can keep reusing as you add more food. You can sort that food out. These shavings will come out the end with your worms, but then you can kind of sort that again and just have worms at the end, or just have the compost, the vermicastings. So with that, let's take a look at the system and see how it's doing. Alright, here we are. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take these bags off here. Just take a quick look at this one right here. Not seeing too much stuck to it. You can already see right here there's a dry section around the edges. We're just going to take a quick look at this one too. I'm not seeing any worms stuck to that one either, so we're just going to throw these off to the side here and dig into our system here. So, as you can see though, I mean, as I said, it's starting to dry out right along these edges over here. That's where there's exposure to the air. It's sort of been starting to separate from the wall. You can hear this is dried out really badly over here in these corners. All the way down. I mean, all the way down. It's all dry. Right there. This one, oh, only a little bit was dry. This one, it's just the top. And right over here, again, almost all the way down into that corner. So pretty low down in there where this is dry. But I knew that would happen. It happens during the winter here. And as you can see here, my last date, 1/26. Let's go ahead and update that with today's date, which is right here of, if I can get that off, 2/15. Actually, we'll probably leave that on here loose because I'll need to put that where I put the food. But last time we fed in the center here, and I will probably continue to do that because this is a place that's really holding in that moisture, whereas the sides are letting it go, and I'd rather not have the food dry out because that's an issue as well. So with that, let's just dig over here on this side a little bit. Let's take a look. There are some worms over here, even in these dried out sections. You know, actually quite a few. I mean, there's actually some moisture on these corners here, so we'll see how that goes. Let's just keep going over here. Let's dig up a little bit more. Some more worms. Looks like there's a little bit of leftover food maybe in this area. So overall, a little bit dry, but still, there's still some moisture in here. So let's put that back. There were some worms, which is a good sign for an area that does not have food in it right now. Let's move this down. Now let's dig this other side out first before we go to the center here, because I know last time we kind of fed in the center, I think. And we have some more worms over here on this side as well. They're low down in there. This was the bottom section that I just pulled up, which isn't surprising. Let's just dig up a little bit more. Oh, look at this. Nice, healthy population of worms in here. They're moving through this material nicely. You know, this really looks good. Actually, we see a little baby in here too, right there. Whoop, hold on. You can see them still? Right there. Whoop, let me bring this up here to you. Right there, there's a little baby. So, on top of the other worm. So that's a good sign. And again, more worms over here. So actually there's a lot more moisture in here than I thought. I really was worried about this being too dry. Even though I do add moisture, you know, the top sections can sort of dry out in these pretty quickly. So overall, surprisingly, there's a lot of worms on the sides there. More than I expected. Now let's start looking at this center section here. And I think this is where we fed last time. And you can see there's still worms. This feels pretty moist. Lots of worms over here as well. See, they're really building up in here actually. Surprisingly, more than I thought. Look right there, look at that. Nice big handful, good amount of worms in there. Another little baby worm right over here. Little baby. So there's lots of young worms in here, which is a good sign. I've got one on my glove right over here. Let's get him off there. So again, more worms here. So they're looking pretty good. Now this is where we fed. Let's just turn this over real quick and see what's left in here. First off, lots of worms. You can see still lots of worms in this system. There's food left in here, surprisingly still. Well, this is the banana tops. These things take forever to break down. But there's some other skins and stuff in here. Oh, it looks like this is coffee grounds. Oh, look at this. Pot worms like crazy. Now, I always find pot worms on my coffee grounds, I have to say. I mean, like, that's just, it just happens. But you can see the worms are really liking this. We're going to break this apart, though. Let this sort of get into the other parts of the system. Just open that up a little bit, mix it around. Oh, and this is, I think this right here, I was going to say, I wasn't sure what it was at first. Whoops. I think I've seen these before. These are typically apple seeds, by the way, from apples that I put there. You can see all the pot worms on my gloves right now. So pot worms aren't bad. They're not great. It shows that there's something wrong with the system typically. I always find them on coffee grounds, I think, because they're acidic. And they just tend to like that. So I'm never too worried about them as long as I don't find them all over the system. Overall, there's still a good amount of worms in here. I do wish they'd kind of work through those coffee grounds a little bit more before we add more food, but we will. Another banana top right there. Lots of worms right here as well. So they're working through this system. I do think that this needs a... Still seems like there's food right there too. Another banana peel stem. So they're working through this. They're getting through this material pretty well. Or not the material, but the food. The material is pretty much the same. But we're going to cover this back up. And I think we'll feed actually over on this side over here. I was going to feed in the middle, but there's still food over there. So we're going to dig up this side over here. And I'm going to move my label here just so everyone can see. I'm going to peel that up nice and carefully and move that over to here. So we know when the last feeding was. And where it was. Now we're going to go ahead and clear all this out right here as best we can. I have to say, I didn't find any place that really didn't have worms in it, so normally I would sort of add all the dry material or stuff like that, but because the food I'm adding is going to be frozen this time as well. But we're not going to add a ton of food, I think. We're going to go a little bit smaller since they still have those coffee grounds in there. Let me just bring over my food that I had that was over here. And whoop, let's see here, we're going to add a little bit of banana. And I'm just trying to see what I can grab in here that's nice and loose. I think I'm going to shake it off into here. There's some loose, there we go. Ooh, a little bit of lettuce in there too. I like to have a mixture of stuff that I feed my worms. So you will notice that I try to mix things up. They get a lot of banana peels. I go through a lot of bananas in my house, a whole lot of bananas. But this is some tea leaves, so this is a little bit different. We got some, I still got a stem of a banana. I've been trying to not put those in this system, but that's okay. And then we've got some orange peels in here as well. So this is going to be a fairly light feeding, as I said. Since there is still some food left, we are going to add just a little bit of our crushed crab and eggshell right here, just to make sure that there's enough grit in here. That's the best way to ensure that the acidity kind of balances out. We're not adding a whole lot, and I'm just going to go ahead and fold this over real quick while the worms are sort of digging down away from it, the light, and we're going to leave that like that. Now, I don't know whether to add moisture to this. The moisture content does feel pretty good. I'm actually quite surprised. I really expected it to be bad because I have added a little bit of water, but not a whole lot during the last 20 days. So I think I'm going to leave it though. I don't really want to just saturate it and get it all soaking wet. It seems like the worms are doing fine. There's plenty of them in here. I don't have any on my gloves now, do I? No, I don't. Okay, I'm good. So with that, we're going to go ahead and close this one back up and let these worms go at it. So we're going to go ahead and put this one off to the side right there. Actually, hold on. I think I've got these backwards. This one goes on the bottom there, like that. This one can go right here, like that. And we can keep this one right over the top for now. This is just sort of an extra barrier. I think I had this one pushed that way, and then this one sort of over here, just to kind of add a little bit more of a vapor barrier there. And that's it for this update. I'm not seeing any mites or anything either. I didn't see any bugs in here. We did have the pot worms, but that was about it. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know. And just as a reminder, this bin is now about a year and a month old. So it's been over a year, and these pine shavings are holding up pretty well. So thank you for watching.